rifle like that. Without looking at her, he emptied 2 rifles, which he handed to Ethan and Ben. Still keeping his gaze on the Indians, he snatched the rifle from Naomi's hands. He took a handful of large, long shells from his pocket and started forcing them into a slot halfway down the stock. Naomi watched, fascinated. Once finished, he leapt to his feet and stepped around the end of the wagon so he had an uninterrupted field of fire at the attacking Indians. They had an equally uninterrupted field of fire at him, but the barrage of rifle fire that erupted from his weapon had a devastating effect on the Indians. As fast as he could pull the trigger, 15 bullets exploded from the rifle. The Indians had no time to attack while he reloaded. There were 6 empty saddles when the stranger slumped back to reload. "Where did you get that rifle?" Ethan asked in shock. "In the army," the stranger replied, busy thumbing bullets in the chamber. "In a few years, the Indians will have 1,000 just like it." The thought of what could have happened if they'd had them today turned Naomi's blood to ice. "Do you think they'll charge again?" Ben asked. The 12-year-old was on the cusp of maturity, young enough to be excited, but old enough to understand the finality of death. "We'll see in a moment," the stranger replied. "You're wounded." Naomi pointed to the bloody shirt. "I've had worse," the man said. With that, he reached around and pulled the arrow out of his back and tossed it away. Naomi gasped in horror. How could he do that like it was no more than extracting a splinter? "You'd better see about that leg," he said to Ethan. Apparently feeling he couldn't be outdone without calling his courage into question, Ethan yanked the arrow from his leg. He turned so white Naomi was afraid he was going to faint. Willing herself not to be sick, Naomi said, "I'll get something to bind your wounds, but you need to see Papa." Naomi ran to their wagon, but when she returned with a roll of flannel a moment later, the stranger was using Ethan's shirt to bind his leg. "Save that for people who need it," he said. "Like you?" She couldn't understand how he could ignore his wound. It had to be extremely painful. "I've been hurt worse, but I'll let you bind it if it will make you feel better." Before she could object, the stranger removed his shirt and turned his back to her. Ever since the nightmares began, Naomi had struggled to keep from being sickened by the sight of blood. Faced with a ragged, oozing wound, she could only remain steady by focusing on the rest of the man's back. That was nearly as dangerous. Compared to her brother's youthfully thin bodies, his shoulders were broad, the smoothness of his skin disturbed only by the heavy cords of muscle underneath, scars from old wounds, and something that looked like welts. Good heaven! Had the man been beaten? Her father shoved Naomi aside. "The man could bleed to death before you stopped staring at him. I know how you feel about blood. See if you can do something to calm Cassie." "I can't leave until we're sure the Indians won't attack again." "I'll call you if they do." It was the stranger who spoke. He looked at Naomi over his shoulder, his expression one of amusement mixed with curiosity. His nearly black eyes seemed to pin her in place. She hesitated a moment before nodding in acknowledgement and turning away. Once her feet were in motion, they moved so fast she was almost running. She had to slow down before she collided with the Green's wagon. When she climbed inside, she found Cassie holding her husband's body as she rocked from side to side, her face streaked with tears, her infant son's cries unheeded. Naomi barely knew Cassie. Unwilling to be part of a large caravan, their group had hired Roy Green to lead them to Santa Fe. They'd seen no reason to object when he said he needed to bring his son's family along. Abe Green had been friendly, but Cassie kept to herself, rarely leaving their wagon. Only 15, she seemed more child than bride and mother. Unsure of what to do or say,